I just think it sounds amazing. Hi, my name's Dan Keane. I'm a composer, producer and musician based in London, and today I want to have a look at string formations and work it into a piece that I've just written for piano and a couple of other keyboard instruments. I'm trying to go really bold with simple harmony choices here. Because the harmonic pace is quite slow, it enables you to be able to lean into notes for a little longer than you typically might. And I think that's where string textural libraries work really well. I'm currently in the chordal section, and this plays into what I was just talking about, which is the ability, and I'm just going to show this very briefly because I know Marcus has done a great walkthrough, which I'll link down below and at the end of this video. The ability to hold down a chord and have the notes legato transition their way around. If I hit on the cog here, we can change the density of these. So if I go all the way up to heavy plus, this is going to enable all of the transitions, A to B, B to D, A to D, and also add a soft layer underneath. With a library like Trails, we're tapping into the musicianship of the players, in this case, Alex Parsons, whose library this is. There's something about these textures that I enjoy when I'm writing cues because it allows me to put some creative control into that of the musicians. What I like about string formations in particular is the fact that these aren't moving out of the chords that I'm playing. They're not playing into improvisation territory. They're purely playing based on the notes that I'm playing. Let's just have a quick listen to that same piece again with the strings that I've added, and then we'll break it down a little bit. When I started filling these out with the strings, I actually got a little bit too trigger happy with this. It's always good to be very intentional with how you use these textures, particularly when you've got multiple tracks loaded up here. Now I've got some processing on here, which I want to show you afterwards because it's one thing just to play a patch, but I think it really does take it to the next level once you've added some of these effects as well. First of all, I just want to show you these cello reflections from Trails. I love these. As I've done with the Moonlight Celeste as well, I just love things that constantly feel like they're falling. It's a sort of reverse shepherd tone, I suppose, of just constant movement. I really, really love that. The violin is doing a similar thing up here. I'm trying to be really, really gentle with that. As the cello's got quite a bit more movement, I'm just letting the violin and Alex's beautiful performance just kind of sit over the top. One of the first layers I added was the string formations layer blend. It doesn't really take effect into layer 2 and 3 until later on. I'm mainly using the circulations, which I think are just fantastic. What I'm guessing are circular bowing over the string. Just a little whisper of something. We've also got these glides as well. That blurring of the colour I just think is so lovely. Again, it's just amazing that you can play this with your keyboard without having to think, what scale am I in? What interval is that? This was a feature that I was just so grateful to the Fracture Sounds team when they helped me with Petrichor, my woodwind textures library. A similar thing with the sporadic trills I had in that library. I did also use Blueprint Gentle Strings, which is available for free for Contact 7 Player. So it is entirely free. You don't have to own the full version of Contact to use it. And I'm really just holding the fort with some of these long sustains. Again, it's useful with harmony like this to be able to pick notes that are common notes of the chords. And again, what a beautiful sound that is. One other thing I wanted to mention quickly is that I've used a fader on my fader bank to modulate the entire string group here. This is affecting any library that has the perspective slider, which is great for allowing us to move between the close and the far microphones with this lovely animation here. That's great. I typically prefer with textures to use the closer mics and add creative effects afterwards rather than using the far microphones. For things like this where I'm moving between notes and there's that blurring, I want to hear the detail there of the close microphones. So I'm just kind of moving that around, and it does actually add something quite nice to, I think we've got 4 or 5 tracks here that have that feature enabled. I love those held dissonances. I mean, I think they're absolutely beautiful. So I mentioned I have some effects on here as well. This is without anything on currently. This is just as the library comes. And then let me add all the effects and processing and you'll hear the difference. I just think it sounds amazing. So I'm using the Veremu compressor by Pulsar, and I compress not even 1 dB. It's probably about half a dB in total. Very, very, very gentle. These are the settings that I typically tend to use, quite a slow attack and release. Then, I mean, these samples were beautifully mixed, I have to say. But I always remove harshness around 3.5K, so that's really the only thing I've done there. And then the Maag EQ by Plugin Alliance, which has a fantastic airband at the top, I'm boosting 20K by just over 2 dB, just to bring out the very, very top of those top frequencies. Again, because the string formations And the trails textures, they're really acting as ear candy just to add that little bit of intrigue at the top there. Then I've got a whole load of effects bands here, starting with something that I love to do, which is the UAD H910 harmonizer. If I just solo it on its own, you'll hear what it's doing. For me, it really just helps to kind of lean into that slight chaos, that slight kind of hysteria, I suppose, under the surface. I'm also using Echo Boy. I've been doing this for years. What I'll tend to do is filter out the low frequencies first, and then I'll go into the Echo Boy and I'll have it at about, I'm not really scientific with this, but it's kind of a 2-to-1 ratio of about 500 milliseconds to 250. Get the space echo going, add lots of feedback, saturation, things like that. This is what that sounds like on its own. Again, it just really adds to that kind of emotional pull. Then I've got some reverb. My choice at the moment is Cinematic Rooms. And then I also always use a close reverb. This is the Capital Chambers by UAD. And finally, everything goes to a rear bus setup, which is a mid-side compression that compresses the mid slightly, and it gives the impression of a slightly wider stereo image that I apply in parallel. Now, one thing you could do to go even further, which is a little bit saucy, but I really like it, is to use Verispeed. So in Logic, you can just activate it with this button. If not, you might need to access it by the customization. What this does is it can slow down and detune the samples in a way that makes it feel even more otherworldly. I like to have it on -4 semitones, so I need to now shift everything up by 4 semitones. Then I will change this to resulting tempo, and I want to increase the original speed so that it still plays back at 64 BPM. I absolutely love Verispeed. If you haven't tried it out, I'd really highly recommend it. Obviously, we're going up by 4 semitones, so we are accessing a different selection of samples. But the main thing for me is that we're slowing it down, and therefore all those legato transitions, all those slides are being stretched out even more. I think that gives us a little bit more space between the texture, and I think that's what makes it feel really dramatic. It feels like it's on tape and it's been slowed down. I think it creates some really beautiful artifacts. So you should definitely try that out if you haven't done already. Anyway, I think that just about wraps it up. So thanks so much for watching. Check out string formations, check out trails, check out the Gentle Strings Blueprint library for free down below. My name's Dan Keane, and I hope to see you again very soon. Goodbye.